Hello, heroes. This is episode 4 of Tuesday Tournament Reviews. In this series, I have a guest who brings me a tournament, and we review and discuss all the questionable hands. About me, briefly, I'm Waldemar Kweiser. You may also know me as Luigi. I have a 14-year career as a poker player, as a tournament player. I'm one of the most steady winners in mid-stakes tournaments. I also had some success in live tournaments, and in 2018, at the top of my career, I quit the grind to start designing a new tool, which is CheckDecide, available at checkdecide.com now. And this is the first interactive replayer in the industry, so we can quickly upload and share full tournaments, and we can compare the decisions with action buttons. So this week's guest is Kurbel David Kurbel.
Hi guys.
And hello, David. Welcome back to the show. This is episode 2, so we are going to review day 2 of your 42K score in a GG poker tournament, Battle of Malta. You finished 6th, right?
Yes, 6th.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm like, David is kind of a student of mine. He turned to me before the final table to discuss some ICM spots together. But you are also a very experienced spin and go and heads up player, or only heads up?
No, mostly spin and go.
Mostly spin and go. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
So and you also have some experience with tournaments as well, but your main profile is playing spin and goes. All right. So how this looks like? So David shared this tournament run with me, and I uploaded to CheckDecide, which took like 2 clicks. And after that, I reviewed every hand with these action buttons. So I always have to make a decision, and as soon as my decision is made, the hand jumps, the tournament jumps to the next hand, and by this I can very quickly identify which spots we need to discuss further, which are the hands where we agreed and which are the hands where we disagreed. So if you open the multibar and select my name, you can see which hands need further discussion between the two of us. This doesn't mean that these hands are played badly, simply that we disagree. So this is probably a good spot to discuss, to look, to take a deeper look into. All right. So this is day 2, and how many players qualified to day 2? Are you? Do you remember
if I'm correct, around 1,200, maybe 1,400, something like that.
Okay, so this was still a huge field?
Yeah, and it wasn't in the money, so I think 900 were paid.
Okay, great. We have some comments as well. Yeah, we have Hetty back again. Probably after we finish this tournament, we are going to review a tournament with Hetty, and we have some spams. We have the Nightbot, so you can use some comments there, and we have Adrian Anna. He's a regular both in CheckDecide and in the stream. Welcome back, Anna. Hello, how are you? And we have Apacho. Very warm welcome for you as well. And let's jump into the first hand. So as you can see, it would be a waste of it would probably be a waste of time discussing the first 4 hands where we basically play the same. This 98% means that I use slightly bigger, slightly smaller bet sizing, but still, this is probably not a hand where we can have a lot to get. We have a lot to gain. So hand number 5 is the first hand, which we should probably discuss. So after I made my review, we can display my suggestions in this format. So we can see that I agreed with your pre-flop call, and you decided to fold to a 1/3 pot C bet with the bottom pair. I think this is slightly too conservative. I agree that the Razor has a lot of strong hands, strong draws, huge advantage on this texture. But on the other hand, having a jack blocks some of his bluff barreling hands, so maybe it is slightly more likely that he has some hands like ace 8, ace 7, ace 6, and all the other hands which cannot really barrel on the turn. So therefore I prefer calling here. Do you have any additional info to add, or how do you feel about this fold?
I think this is a mindset leak of mine that I had been running bad lately at the time of this tournament. And I was thinking, if I hit the jack, he must have bigger 2-pair straight, or I don't win enough money. So that's why I folded. This is my fault. I should have called. I usually call these, and I usually lose with this. So
yeah, like
that's why I folded.
when you put this money in, it's like defending your big blind. So it's basically step 2 of defending your big blind. You just have great odds, some opportunity to improve, some opportunity to take this into showdown once in a blue moon, and yeah, sometimes the turn is a 5. So some lucky outcomes make this this call profitable, and it's not like you are going to win here most of the time. This is like as you mentioned, this is slightly about mindset as well. Like in poker, many times you have to make calls where you are going to lose more than 50% of the times, and your brain is wired to avoid these situations by evolution. You don't, like, evolution doesn't take odds into account. They just go by the most likely outcome. And in poker, you get great odds, especially in tournament poker where the bet sizes are smaller than in cash games. So this is a close call, and I expect to lose most of the time, but sometimes I can win big, and sometimes I can get into showdown. Sometimes I can turn this hand into a bluff, maybe, if it's necessary, like if I really don't have any worse hand on some run out. So yep.
If I had a backdoor flush, though, I would have definitely called.
Yeah,
so
but
if the turn was a club.
that doesn't take a man to call with the backdoor flush draw.
That's true.
All right, and you can see that the next 3 hands we basically agreed. So once again, we should skip them. And the next one is ace queen offsuit, and unlike you are Doy Branson, you want to play them, and but I agree with Legendary Doy that this is a difficult hand to play. On this texture, I think with 27 big blinds effective, I think you have to make a tiny c-bet. You raised from very early position. You have a much stronger range than he does. He still has hands like 5 deuce suited, or king 4 suited, maybe a backdoor flush draw, maybe no backdoor flush draw, and you have all the overpairs. He doesn't have any overpairs unless he slow played some aces, maybe. But that's not really realistic. You have the top set, you have the second set. He probably doesn't have these. He has some 10-9 of suit 2 pairs, so that's a point for him, and probably set of trays also only happen in his range and not in yours. But other than that, you have still you have a huge nut advantage, and he has a ton of craps you don't want to give free cards to. So something like, even like king 7 with a backdoor flush draw can pick up a lot of equity on a lot of turns and bluff you out. So and it's not like he can check raise the shit out of you on this texture. You have a lot of hands which have him crippled if he plays too aggressively with his draws or top pairs. So on this texture, you just want to make a bet. He's kind of forced to check call with hands like queen 8, king queen, probably Queen Jack as well, even though he has 2 overcards and an open ender against the under the gun or early position opener. He probably doesn't want to fast play them all the time. So you don't risk too much by betting, but you can build a pot, and then many good things can happen later on.
Agree.
Yeah, yeah. But if you play in spin and goes and in heads up, you may be used to a situation that you only play from the button where your range is still very wide, so you don't have as big nut advantage as sometimes you do in full ring tournaments. In full ring tournaments, when you raise from this position, you generally have in the neighborhood of 20%, the top 20% of the hands. So those hands mean that you have a huge advantage on this texture. So you are very, very safe to bet. And if you happen to check here, I think another like tiny protection bet is okay here, but checking is fine if you got here. But once again, he has a lot of hands, even offsuit combinations like King 8 offsuit or other hands which you don't have dominated, but he would clearly fold to any bet, and you still give free 6 outs, free card to 6 outs many times, and also some gut shots, etc. I think betting is slightly better, especially versus the population who don't punish you too enough for the delayed c bets. So yeah, if we got to the river, I don't think we have any reason to bet. It would be too thin to value bet. Or wow.
I felt that. Yeah, I felt that.
This is one hand hard to figure out. Yeah, and the next hand is this one, 6-7 suited. Yeah, like raising it is an option, but and it depends a lot on the ICM. If you are the shorter stack, probably, and probably the other guys will be more aggressive. If they have to make a decision of older chips, then they're probably going to be more on the tighter side. If this is a bubble, do you any chance you remember this is still the bubble, or you are already...
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, that we were approaching the bubble, if I'm correct. So that's why I raised.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you are approaching the bubble, then maybe even jamming is reasonable here. Let me check
Yes.
like even without the ICM pressure, I think you can jam some of these hands. Not sure if 7-6 suited is there, but with 20 big blinds, no, 10-9 suited, so that's a slightly better hand you require to have. But with 17 big blinds, no, 9-8 suited, but still it's close. So with the extra fold equity you have in the bubble, maybe you just want to jam these hands, or slightly better suited connectors, because they can fold out a ton of hands which have an easy call or rejam, like King Jack of suit. They cannot do anything, especially in the bubble. They just have to fold. Even King Queen of suit in the bubble, they have to fold. A lot of ace-x hands, they have to fold. And those hands, even if it's in the bubble, they think that the big stack is aggressive from the button, so they have no real problem rejamming those. But if you jam yourself, then all of a sudden they have no other option just to fold. But yeah, it depends on their approach to the game. By default, I think jamming is best here in the bubble. A second best option is probably raising, and even limping is viable. Yeah, cannot do much. The next one is pocket jacks. Yep. We would be happy to call here, obviously. And yeah, this is an interesting texture. Have you talked about anything like this in the earlier episode 1?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Like on these textures, what you have to see is that you have it's only you who has overpairs, so you have quite a big nut advantage. But opening from the cutoff, you also have a lot of trashy hands. So rather than going with the logic that what is the biggest bet size he would call here, you should rather go with the logic that, hey, I have a lot of crappy hands I want to use as a bluff here. So let's use the biggest possible bet with my strong hands, like King 10 plus, and let put a ton of pressure on his gut shots, on his second pairs, third pairs, and then we can use hands like Jack 9, Jack 8, Queen 9, Queen Jack, King Jack to make very, very profitable big size bluff C bets. And if he happens to call them, then your outs are very, very clean. So if you make a 2/3 or full pot C bet with something like Jack 8, then your Jack out is very, very clean because he will not check call you with King Jack or Ace Jack or Queen Jack for a big size C bet. But if you just make a tiny C bet, then he would check call you probably with a lot of two overs plus backdoor flush draw type hands, and then your Jack is not that clean. So you can put a lot of pressure on them with huge C bets on this texture. And what's even better about this situation is that population barely ever does big bluff C bets here. So they only size up with their good holdings, like this pocket jacks, which is very reasonable to go for a big size value C bet here. But they don't do the small size C bets. Yeah, 2/3, yeah. And Hedy says that a lot of hands in Pio Solver use the first overpair to the board to bet big. I've noticed, yeah, that's true, because these are the overpairs which are strong enough to put a lot of money in, but they are somewhat vulnerable. So when you have pocket jacks here, you kind of like folding out King Queen with a backdoor flush draw or something like that. So to make a long story short, general on this texture, as he doesn't really have offsuit 2 pairs, so he doesn't defend most of the time with 10-3 offsuit, 10-4 offsuit. Probably questionable if he defends with 4-3 offsuit. Some of the guys do, some of the guys don't. But in general, he has a very hard time defending against a big size C bet. So I really like sizing up here with most of my range. And that's why I decided to use 2/3 bet. In Pio, you may also see or in solvers, you may also see pot size C bets here to put an even bigger pressure on them. So just imagine like you have ace 5 of diamond here, and you face a pot size C bet or a 2/3 pot C bet. What's your play?
Fold.
You just have to fold.
Yeah.
You have ace 3 of heart, and you face a pot size C bet.
It's a crying fold.
Yeah, something like that. And like probably by the solvers, you should 100% call there with any pair you have. But it's just very, very hard to get to showdown ever. Or let's say you have a particularly good hand, or normally it would be a particularly good hand, 7-6 of clubs, So gut shot, not gut shot, and the backdoor flush draw, and you face a big size c bet, you probably have to fold as well, denying a lot of equity. So and maybe when you when you look at these pair of jacks, you say that, hey, maybe I lose some value by using big size bets, but on the other hand, you have just so many other hands you prefer a fold here. So as I mentioned, Jack 9, Jack 8, Queen Jack, King 9 with the backdoor flush draw or something like that. You can all use a big bet, and it cleans your overcards a lot. So if you happen to hit any of the overcards, then those are probably clean outs, and you are very safe to barrel for value. And on the other hand, as he is kind of forced to fold Queen Jack with one spade, King Jack with one spade, and all these type of hands, even if you don't hit your overcard, but the turn is a Jack or turn is a Queen, those are absolutely amazing barreling cards for you. You have a huge advantage on those if you use the big size bet. If you use the small size bet, it's questionable whether they're like still a good card for you, but probably not as good or definitely not as good as when you use big size.
Yeah.
Ace of Wizard joined the party. Welcome to the show. And Chubby also joined. Hello, welcome to the show. And so big size c bets are amazing on these textures. And yeah, the turn is a very tricky card. Normally, an ace is in favor of the pre-flop aggressor, but in this situation, the big blind has quite a few ace 5, ace deuce. As you used small size c bet, he had easy time check calling you with ace 5, ace deuce, ace straight, ace 4, or any like ace 9 with one spade, ace 8 with one spade, these type of hands. And he has probably at least as many suited hands flushes in his range than as you do. So I think you definitely have to be careful with this. I think against population, against a more passive guy, you can get away with using a tiny merge barrel here. But against a more skilled player, you have to check here a lot, checking some of your ace-x hands as well, and proceed with caution. I don't think we should value bet here, but you will win a lot here, I think. I think this is a bit too greedy.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Like you are probably still capped. So if you are up against a tricky player, he may still go for a check raise. With a flush, it's very reasonable. I agree that most of the time you have the best hand, but the definition of a value bet means that when you get called, you have to have the best hand at least 50% of the time. Heladi90 says that, by the way, welcome to the show, but we have to be aware that if we bet big and population will overfold, we cannot barrel that aggressively on the turn. Yeah, if the turn is an undercard, then we usually have to shut down or proceed very cautiously. But if the turn is an overcard, then it is always in the favor of all range, so we can still put quite a lot of pressure on them. Although I agree that some of the players just make their mind on the flop, and if they decided that they call you, they often call you down. But still, you have to be aware that most of the overcards favor your range when you use the big size bet. Yeah, next one.
Wow, 0%.
I'd probably just something missed. Yeah, my default is call here. I don't really like committing myself or kind of committing myself against 16 big blind stacks. And I also don't think he would open too wide here, having relatively big stacks on the big blind and some riskier stacks behind him. So I think calling is just better here. Also, from this position, he probably opens some hands which we dominate, some offsuit king queen, king jack, queen jack, king 10. So yeah, I think calling is better. We can actually check the what the Munker solver charts suggest here. If you are not familiar with Munker solver, these are basically charts created by robots. So they like there are very good robots existing who play close to perfect poker, and they took 8 of them, put them to the same table, or 6 of them, put them to the same table, and told them to adjust, to try every possible move and adjust to each other as long as they can. And when they are finished with the adjusting, and they said that, hey master, we are ready, we cannot do any cannot make any further adjustment to increase our profit, then that's called equilibrium strategy, or GTO, game theory optimum strategy. And these are the ranges which are related to the game theory optimum strategy. And if you check, this is hijack versus slow jack, 30 big blinds deep, versus slow jack. This is hijack, king queen off. Yeah, mostly a call, sometimes a 3-bet. In these cases, I, rather than using something like a random generator or anything, you should probably just take a look at the stacks behind you, the guys behind you, the general buy-in of your tournament, like how aggressive the guys are going to be behind you. The more aggressive they are, the more you want to go for 3-bets yourself to decrease or make their life harder. So, for example, if you 3-bet here, they will probably fold ace jack and ace 10 suited and 6s, 7s, etc. If you just call here, then they may simply jam, or most of the time they would just jam, and that makes your life much harder. It's interesting. I would have thought we are more inclined to 3-bet when there are short stacks behind, denying them the opportunity to squeeze shove light. Yeah, it depends on depends on the exact stacks. If they are like 22, 25 big blinds when we still can fold, then probably 3-betting is slightly more attractive. But given that we commit ourselves against them, but they are not like 12 big blinds or 10 big blinds, but they are 16 big blinds, I think calling is slightly better, but whatever. And yeah, this is a tricky situation. If you take a look at the ranges, we see that I'm not sure if you follow these charts, but like what the main question is, what do you do here with ace queen offsuit pre-flop?
I think pre-flop. Call. I think most of the time, because I don't want to get 4-bet. I can call the short stack squeezes.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. But if you have the ace queen offsuit in your calling range, then in this situation you don't have too many top pairs. You have aces and kings for over pairs, and you have some monsterish draws like not flush draw with ace king and not flush draw with something like ace 6 suited if you decided to 3-bet. But other than that, you have quite a few ace king offs which are like marginal, close to air on this texture, and yeah, like some bluffs, some complete airs, and some under pairs, and like top full, but that's just very few combinations. So in this situation, I think you have some hands which clearly favors checking here. Something like probably ace king with the king of heart, or jacks, especially with the heart, or yeah, hands like tens, especially with the heart. Do you see bet all those here, or you just check them?
I think it's player dependent. So against some people I'm more range c bet. Against some I would check most of my hands. I cannot give you a concrete answer.
All right. Like Hetty has a question. High in 3-bet pots, the queen should favor the caller rather than the raiser. Yeah. This is true, and this is why I think you mainly have to check your jacks and tens here, and some ace king, especially if you have a backdoor flush draw with them, to make sure that you realize that equity. And if you have a checking range here, then probably checking your weakest top pairs is a good balance. I would check king queen, because king makes your hand less vulnerable. So if he called your 3-bet with something like king jack and the turn comes a king, then it's rather bad for him than good. So he barely has any outs against you, and it really balances your checking range very well. So I would check this. Yeah, but whatever. Like on a flush draw texture, they always have enough airs to justify a tiny c-bet, but I still think that like this is what I call like barely overcard kicker. Top pairs with barely overcard kicker are very often played cautiously, or like part of your trapping check trapping range, because these are the top pairs with less vulnerability, if I pronounce it right. Yeah, the next one is this, and we get a call from position. What do you think this calling range looks like in general?
Mostly broadways and pocket pairs, like 10-9, Jack 10, mostly dominated hands, and a lot of pocket pairs, maybe small suited aces, or not necessarily small to medium suited aces. Yeah. I think it can be a lot of hands.
Yeah, like some of the strongest offsuit broadways as well, but many suited hands, many broadways, many suited aces, and considering
and also
this,
some traps.
Yeah,
because there are 2 Richter stacks.
Yeah. You can see these starting stack values here, and yeah, I would think that he has some aces and kings trapped here, and on like this is an interesting texture. This we can call no man's land, because this doesn't change too much of the starting ranges. He may have some 8-7 suited, or ace-5 suited, ace-4 suited, but that's it. Most of the time, if you were ahead pre-flop, you are ahead on this texture as well. But what you have to see is that any rainbow texture gives him 3 backdoor flush draws. So it's not like you can get away with a tiny c-bet and he will fold a lot. Most of his hands feel very comfortable peeling against a tiny c-bet. So tiny c-bet is kind of out of question here. And I think checking with this hand and leaving in some of the dominated hands here is okay. or you can make a medium-sized bet, which makes it somewhat hard for, like, half-pot size bet makes it hard for him to PL with king queen suited with a backdoor flush draw, and that's fine for you. But I think either checking or betting half pot is fine. Betting 1/3, yeah, maybe I use the logic that with this tiny bet we can still get a lot of calls from dominated holdings with backdoor flush draws, but I think checking is best. And if we check, then checking the turn is very, very good. Many players don't have any continuing range after they check twice on this texture, so he will be very happy to make loose bets with Jack 10, 10-9, or even hands with no real equity, no direct outs. So I like checking here, and check calling is very good. And the river is quite bad, but not terrible. Yeah, I mean,
That sizing he uses. Please call me with ace high. It screams for that.
maybe it is, or maybe he just wants to use a tiny bet. We should probably start making like calculating like how our range looks like here. I guess we get here with some better ace kings as well, like better ace highs, ace king, ace queen.
But
Probably
we blocked the Jack 10 with ace Jack. So that's a plus for this combo.
yeah, but I don't think Jack 10 is too relevant here, because he probably uses a bigger sizing either on the turn or especially on the river. So I think yeah, having the ace of club is rather bad for the call. Yeah, I don't think we get here with anything worse than this, and given that most of the population doesn't use this tiny sizing for bluff enough, I think we can fold. But yeah, I think calling with ace king is okay, just to keep him honest, and keep our population reads fresh. I think calling with this is just to lose. Yeah, I don't like my decision. Yeah, most of the chat agrees with the fold, but Necam 8DS says core just information. Well, yeah, that's probably not a good idea, but like sometimes just like making these tiny calls just to keep your population reads like fresh. It's not a disaster.
I would have been happier to call a 2/3 spot bet on the river if I wanted to call something.
Yeah, like the higher stakes you go, the less you can apply this logic, I think, because high stakes players will be able to find some like more creative bluff sizes, like 1/3, 1/4, with the appropriate ranges. For example, I really love using 1/3 bluffs in situations like this, because I think I have the impression that they work even better. Like they fold out a bigger part of the ranges of my opponents. I kind of have this feeling, but I agree that most of the population just don't have bluffs with these tiny sizes. So yeah, I guess some guys it is more tempting to call a bigger bet. Yeah, this is questionable. I think if he's a loose guy, we can either just rejam. If you check the ranges, like 17 big blind, but this is just not realistic. He should play something like this with 17 big blind. The yellow being the limping range. So as you can see, he should barely ever min raise here, like 3% of the time. But this is not something which happens in practice. You barely ever see limping from the cutoff with 17 big blind. So I would assume that, like, actually the biggest reason why Monker robots came to the conclusion that with 17 big blind you have to open limp a lot, because your opponents will have a very easy time reshoving on you. So if you are on the big blind with 10-9 offsuit, or Jack 9 offsuit, or ace deuce offsuit, or anything reasonable, then you have a very happy time rejamming on a 17 big blind opener, and you have to risk 17 big blind or 16 big blind, and there are already close to 5 big blinds in the pot. So it makes it very, very, very easy for you to make money if he has a wide raise folding range. But the problem with this is that the big blind has 30 big blinds, so you cannot just blindly shove. But I still think that some kind of aggressive action, like either rejamming or 3-betting big, folding to the big blind and calling to him, is better than folding here. It doesn't look really nice. Probably a little bit barbaric move, but still profitable. I'm fairly sure about that. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, and you can see the power of check decide once again, that we don't have to talk about these hands because we played pretty much the same. And the next one is this one, where we probably have some ideas to gain. Raising is fine, and on monotone textures, especially with 2 broadways, you don't really want to do any betting out of position, so checking is very fine. And on the turn, I don't think you should start betting. Like, yeah, he may have some hands like Jack 9 of diamond, which needs to fold. Or what was your thought process here?
I was sure that he would bet all of his kings on the flop and most of his tens. So with a 2 street big bet strategy, I can make him fold most of his range, but I don't understand my sizing. So if I want him to make, I want to make him fold, I should rather bet like 40K or something. Mm-hmm. Because I'm also going to check raise a lot of value hands, so it's not like I'm always on bluff here. It's just another bluff combo that I attach to my value hands.
Well, I agree with the first part, that the population tends to bet too linearly here. If you check on the flop, they barely do any trapping. Like, they should probably check their weakest and medium king X hands, because you indeed can have a lot of check raises here. And I agree that some of them even bet their 10x hands, which is almost clearly almost always a mistake. But yeah, like, if he is this type of guy, then maybe his checking range is just so weak that you can even try this kind of small bet. But I would rather go with some kind of equity, even just a gut shot. You will have a ton of hands to pick here. Like, even just like pocket fives with a heart, it's okay. I'm not sure if you should turn that into a bluff, but you definitely have many ace-x combos with 1 heart, ace jack with jack of heart, ace queen with a queen of heart, ace 9 with 1 heart, and or even without a heart, 8-7, 8-9, jack 9, queen jack, ace jack. So you don't have to use this kind of hand to barrel here. And yeah, I agree that if you really want to leverage this situation and the fact that you have some knotted hands, which he doesn't, then I think you have to use a bigger sizing here. Yeah, his checking range is supposed to be around 10x hands, which are very comfortable calling this bet, but would suffer against the 40k bet. So yeah,
maybe I was value betting against draws. Who knows?
Yeah, but
against Queen Jack.
The problem is that you have a hard time driving your hand into showdown as a winning hand.
Yeah, I was joking.
Yeah. All right.
I remember this one. Yeah.
I like first of all, you have to pay a little bit of attention to the sizing, because many players have tendency to raise slightly bigger with their value hands, or significantly bigger with their value hands. So it's not always the case. Some guys just always do 2.5x, and that's the case. Yeah, I missed some comments. Sorry. 5.53 bet. I'm not sure which hand NA is talking about. And the Ace of Wizards says that ICM and Advanced Tip to Sharpscope searches is a really good read. Thank you, Ace of Wizards. Actually, we had that exact discussion with David before the final table. We went through all the players and used those tips to get a feel on the players, like who is going to be ICM aware and who is not, who is going to be like egotistic player and who will be more disciplined with the folds. So yeah, that's a useful read for sure.
And all of Luigi's tips were spot on, just to say. So
I'm happy to hear. Yeah. All right. Yeah, and had that suggestion with the ace deuce suited. Yeah, something like that. 5.5, 6, 7 big blinds 3-bet is what I would prefer the most. Or rejamming is definitely plus CV as well. Okay, let's see what you did here with ace 10 of suit. What's your best take now? What would you do here? Squeeze. Yeah,
squeeze all day, every day.
Yeah.
With this hand.
Against the normal size, like 2 or 2.2x, I would raise all day, every day. With the 2.5x kind of sizing read, I'm not sure. Maybe like if I have anything related to this sizing, any specific read about this player, then maybe I decide to fold. Yeah, that's
I was thinking that he's a big stack. He just wants to take the blinds and be aggressive.
Yeah. That's a reasonable strategy in the later stages when the other players have huge ICM pressure on them to size up with your opens, and even if you offer them a better risk-reward ratio on a resteal, on the other hand, you make their life much harder from the big blind to call, and therefore it is a valuable strategy indeed. But I'm not sure like this early, like you mentioned that probably at this point you were at like 800 players or something like that, or 500 players. I'm not sure if they already start using this strategy enough, but it went through. So, oh no, it didn't. Let's see. Yeah, like these kind of textures, like more or less no man's land in a 3-bet pot. The situation is that none of you have too many 9x hands. None of you have, like, he has some pocket pairs, like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, maybe even pocket 10s, but you blocked them, and he may 3-bet them at start. So I think you can make a tiny bet here, but yeah, I think it's fine. And on the turn, it is getting a little bit dicey. I I think you should do some second barrels here, because that population barely does any second barrels here without a good hand, and he has a really hard time facing that with pocket eights, pocket sevens, pocket sixes, and yeah, maybe he has some floats on the flop like king, queen, backdoor flush draw. Do you think he does?
Some of the time, for sure, he was more of an active type of player, so
Uh-huh.
I would put him on a wider range. But it's funny because I'm pretty imbalanced in this spot. I'm always checking kings and aces here to catch his bluffs, but I would barrel jacks, barrel queens, and barrel most bluffs. But that's the thing only I know, fortunately. So,
the thing is that if you want, but I don't think we should barrel here, especially in a weak field. It's just probably too risky. So and yeah, you can balance your checking ranges with some aces and kings, and that's fine. So I think checking is fine here.
The only problem with checking, I think, is that still most of his range are like pocket sixes, pocket eights, pocket sevens, and if a high card comes on the river, we might not get value from them anymore. So if you want to make them call, we should have it on the turn. I don't know if that's...
with aces and kings, you mean, right?
Yeah, not with this hand.
Yeah. But overall, like you cannot barrel your whole range here on the turn. So I think if you have to check some, then checking your least vulnerable overpairs like aces and kings is with some frequency is fine. And probably like I'm not sure if you squeeze something like 10-8 suited here or Jack 10 suited, maybe those are good hands to barrel on, especially if they don't block any of the backdoor flush draws which he could pill on the flop with. And so yeah, I think this is a little bit too risky, especially in the six.
I just closed my eyes and bet.
Well, like obviously, like this had to work because you made the final table, but I'm absolutely not sure if this is a plus EV move. Obviously, yeah, like you get great odds on it, so it doesn't need to work all that much. But I think in a weekish tournament against a random guy or someone you clearly don't have any specific read on. I assume you didn't have.
No, didn't.
Then I just have to say that I think this is rather minus EV in general from the turn. I think most of many of the random guys just kind of snap call here with any 9 and any pocket 8s, pocket 7s. Obviously, there are some regs who base their decisions on population tendencies, and then they say that population doesn't bluff here enough, so they rather overfold. I would fall into that category, but I still think this is just way too risky. You will have I can imagine this making you a few big blind plus, but you can collect those big blinds later on with very easy good opens, good 3-bets, good re-steals, good c-bets, whatever, really low variance plays. So I overall I just have bad feelings about this, to be honest, but it worked. So yeah.
I didn't like it either on the river. I was hoping he was on fold with his 9s.
Yeah, one thing I can say that the timing he calls the turn with is quite significant. If you face a snap call on the turn, that's you can almost always exclude traps. So if they snap call, that's rather a message like, "Hey, I'm strong. Don't you dare firing that third barrel." So that's their message. And in that case, I may fire the third one. If the turn is like a long tanking and a call, then I think you should rather stay cautious and give it up on the river, because many times they either are Hollywooding and setting a trap for you with the tank call, or they are just making their mind for the river that, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and check call on the river as well, and none of those are good for you if you are on a bluff. So yeah, but whatever, it worked, so I shut up. Yeah, I think this is a fine open, even the big blind on the a big stack on the big blind. Do you have any idea why you missed this? Or
I'm usually opening this from the cutoff, not from the hijack. I don't know if that's okay or not.
No, like you have something like 60 big blinds here, and even more shallow with the other guy, with some of the other guys. So let's take a look into the cutoff opening ranges or hijack opening ranges. You not just have to open ace-9 of suit from the hijack, but also ace-8 of suit. So if it's not your standard, then you are definitely more like tighter than you should. And this takes into account that the other players behind you and from the big blind, they will react very aggressively to your opens and call you a lot in position, 3-bet you a lot in position, rejamming 30 big blinds, etc. But this doesn't happen that much in practice. So therefore, you can definitely open these ranges profitably. So adjust your standards then.
Yeah.
And let's see these aces. Yeah, this is something to talk about. Yeah, this is an interesting situation. The opener is 35 big blind. You have a big stack. We have a 30 big blind and 17 big blind, and we have a big stack on the bottom. So these stacks are quite mixed up. In this situation, you should mainly pay attention to the shortest stacks. If there are many, then those players are significant, and probably ignore the other big stack somewhat, unless you are considering something like rejamming, etc. And I would go and check first the 30 big blind ranges, just to see, have an overview how we should play this situation. So we have a hijack opener, 30 big blinds deep, and we are in the low jack. Is that correct? Yeah, hijack open and low jack.
We are in the cutoff.
Yeah, cutoff, sorry. So there is a hijack opener and we are in the cutoff. And as you can see, aces are mainly traps here. And this is what you can see under 30 big blind or under 35 big blind many times, that in position, you mainly want to call the aces, especially so if the blinds behind you are relatively shallow, because then you can induce a lot of marginal rejams from them, like 7s, 6s. If you 3-bet here, then they probably fold these. If you flat, they almost always just rejam 7s, 6s, ace jack off, king queen off, maybe ace 10 off. It happens from time to time, and they do it correctly. And even like they should do rejams like queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, which most of them don't, but still it's an opportunity, it's a possibility. And given the big stack behind you, I think that's another reason to just flat here. And especially the short stack on the blind, I would prefer flatting here.
And what would your play be if we flatted there and the button squeezed?
Like if he's an unknown, I would probably continue trapping. If I have stats on him, like overall 3-bet is 3 or 4 or ridiculously low, then I would just rejam and expect to get a lot of calls from hands like 9s, 10s, jacks, ace queen, ace king. If he's an aggressive guy, then just calling is fine. I'm not sure. Like,
I was thinking that population never bluff 4-bets. Called 4-bets. So I wanted to get it in against queens, kings, maybe jacks. Didn't want to have an ace to come and then lose a lot of chips. So I just shipped it and he folded and I cried. I remember this one.
It depends on really a lot on your opponent. If you have any read that he's an aggressive guy, then obviously calling is very good here, because maybe he uses the logic that you are trying to put pressure on the 35 big blind stack, so you have a lot of light 3-bets, and even if you have marginal 3-bet calls against the original opener, like ace queen, you have to fold those to a cold 4-bet, or at least you feel very uncomfortable with ace queen here against the cold 4-bet. So this is actually quite a good spot for him to take something like ace 4, ace deuce, ace, some suited ace, and turn it into a cold 4-bet bluff. I agree with that population doesn't do these kind of bluffs enough. So probably you do better by just jamming and expecting a call from something like jacks, tens, queens, kings, etc. So I think it's fine. If this guy is someone like you had on the final table, like Mark Hem, he's a beast, or any other like crazy aggressive guy, then flatting is very good, and I'm sure that you would have done that against a non aggressive guy.
Yeah.
But against a random, you just do better. Yeah, by rejamming. So don't blame yourself for this. And by the way, I think I'm just sharing this tournament in case someone wants to review this, and you can open it. It's public. In Checkdeside, you can set the privacy of your content. So this is a public content on my profile, and you can review them, and then you can open the multibar, select my name, and you can check my suggestions. So it's a good practice for sure. And with deuces against the limp, once again we can check 40 big blinds deep against the limp how you should react. Deuces are and trays are checks, and fours and aboves should be raises. I think this is a little bit too aggressive to like random guys to stack off like in weaker tournaments, to stack off with pocket fours here with the raise and probably calling a jam. That's marginal. But what you should be aware is how many bluff raises you should do here, like 10-4 of suit, queen deuce of suit, or suited deuces, suited trays, disconnected offsuit, blocker type hands. This is what you should do, but deuces are fine checks. I say fine checks. And like obviously when they limp call, my read on the population is that they limp fold way too much, and therefore their limp calling range is stronger than it should be, and they have some connection on this one, but still you have not advantage. It's only you who has ace king, aces, and probably king queen and queens and sevens. So this adds up to quite a few very strong hands. So I think you are fine c-betting tiny on this texture. And what I have to mention here is that when the board runs out with connected cards, something like a 10 on the turn and a blank on the river, or jack on the turn and blank on the river, many of the guys don't find the proper bluff combinations. But on those runouts, hands like under pocket pairs are the favorite bluff combos in the solvers. So the reason is that many of my students like to select something like a straight draw to triple barrel. If the turn is a jack, they take something like 10-7 and triple it because they block the straight. But looking into the solvers, it's clear that it's more important not to block some hands like queen 10, jack 10, 10-9, some call folds. It's more important to not block them than to block straights. And therefore, these low pocket pairs, under pocket pairs, which don't have too much showdown value, work well on a turn jack or turn 10 to make a second barrel and get a call with a lot of pair plus straight draws, and then fire a third barrel and get a lot of folds from marginal holdings. So this is another reason why we should see bet here. And we got check raise, so it's an easy fold. And let's take a look at this one. Let me know if you happen to see that we are on the final table. I don't think we get to the final table today, but maybe.
At one point, I'm gonna have 36 million chips, so we are a long way to go.
All right. Okay. But looking back to these charts, you can see that raising big with hands like this is very, very common in small blind, big blind strategies. So I think you missed this from your strategy, or mainly missed this.
I do it, but the previous hand I just raised deuces, so I was expecting a higher frequency of limp raises from him.
Yeah.
So that's why I moved back a step.
Yeah, that's quite a good adjustment in general, because he didn't see that you had a pocket pair. He just saw that you raised, and it turned out to be a light c-bet on the flop. So maybe he assumes that you raised too much from the big blind, and therefore he limps more for traps, and then these isolations will not work as good. But I think you still have to do some of these, and especially in a final table or in a situation where you can be sure that your opponent pays a lot of attention. Repeating the kind of mistake you made earlier is a very powerful weapon if your opponent is this type of leveling guy. So by nature, we are wired not to. So if we tried something and it failed, we tend not to repeat it. This is how evolution works. But if your opponent thinks on this level and expects you not to repeat this mistake, and you still do it again, then you may even get more credit for that. So a more visible example for this is when you make a 3-bet against someone on a final table when you surely has all his attention, and you make a light 3-bet, he jumps on you and you fold, and a few hands later you 3-bet him again. What do you think his most likely thinking will be? Like,
That I'm gonna do it with value hand now.
Yeah. Like this is I think this is the most common thinking of players. So if you want to get one step further, you sometimes have to repeat it with a light hand, and it can build up a very good leveling war between the two of you. Obviously, most of the times you just want to go with your ranges and play correct poker, but against someone who you know that it is the type of old school player who rather goes with population reads, leveling boards, etc., than correct range building, then you can you can make one step ahead of him and do light three bet twice in a row or three times in a row, and then really get into his mind. But whatever. It's an optional raise. And on the flop, I don't think you have to use big sizing, especially with not with this combo. You may even want to check this because you have a nice overcard kicker to the to your second pair. But whatever, betting cannot be really bad. Population barely does any check raising on this texture, so you are safe to protect your second pair. And I think betting tiny would be better. On the turn, I think it's time to check now. But what was your reasoning behind betting against
I have
ace
no
X
idea.
hands?
Maybe I was thinking he bets all of his 4x on the flop. I'm definitely almost always ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And on the turn, he might check call with all of his aces, but there are just too many one check folds and two 7x's that I can run into. So I would rather check and then bluff catch on the river than do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like it.
Well, on these textures, the small blind should not bet at all, mainly. Like maybe he can bet like 5% or 10% of the time, but he should definitely check his entire range. That's a good good approach to these textures if you are on the small blind. So I would not exclude 4x at all. I would not exclude any kind of connection to this texture. He can even check call with hands like 7-6, 7-5. That's very reasonable. And the reason why he should check a lot, because you as the checker on the flop or pre-flop has a lot of deuce x, 3x, 4x hands, while he probably doesn't limp with 9 deuce, 9 3, 9 4 of suit. Maybe he even folds that one. So therefore you have some advantage on this texture. Even if you don't have the overpairs, you have some extra straights, extra 2 pairs, extra 1 pair type hands, so he cannot be too aggressive on this texture. Therefore, I would be a little bit afraid that I put too much money in 4 or 7 or some other random strong hands. I would probably just check and evaluate on the river. But once again, against population, you probably do fine by making another tiny bet. 7 is a slightly more in your range as well. So yeah, on the river, I think checking is fine. What was it? Sorry, I didn't.
King 4. King 4.
King 4. Yeah. So in this case, like it's not a big disaster. You lost a few extra big blinds which you shouldn't have. But what you definitely have to make is a note that he probably understands this texture and is a type of guy who protects his checks. Like he has probably stronger check ranges than the population, so he probably doesn't have that leak which many mid-stakes players do, that their check ranges are crappy and not protected.
Yep.
Yeah, like in order charts, these were named as potential 3-bets, but against any reasonable guy, I think calling is better, according to the fresh charts.
What would your bluffs be here, if not these small aces?
The weakest aces, which I cannot really call, like when in position, or in general when considering calling, the straight potential usually pushes your hand to the calling range, and if you don't have straight potential like a6, a7, then it means that it will be harder to over realize your equity with that type of combo, and then you rather want to use that as a 3-bet. So a6 suited, a7 suited, and let's see something like ace-9 offsuit, I would say, and some king-10 offsuit, probably that's decent. 40 big blinds, big button versus cutoff. Yeah, a6 suited, yeah, a7 suited, some king x suited, queen 9 suited, queen 8 suited, ace jack off. That's probably for value, but that's a little bit too thin. But ace 9 offsuit, yeah, something with a blocker and not super good playability, I would say. Yeah, and yeah, this is an interesting texture. Like your overall range is very, very Broadway heavy here, and I think this is a fine. This is an okay combo to start bluffing with. Yeah, I like. Obviously, we would like to have some better equity with than this, but you have a backdoor flush draw, which is okay, and you probably can run some triple barrels on these textures if the turn and river are blanks. So yeah, I would start betting here. This is just
I don't like my check.
Yeah, and you probably save money. Like we will never know. Yeah, and you can see next hands are all almost 100% matches. And let's talk about this one. Yeah, you have now over 1 million. And an open, and the call, and an interesting texture. So once again, this is a texture where you have a big nut advantage. You have probably all the 3 sets, and you have all the overpairs, and this gives you a lot of like strong right to bet and barrel here. But what you have to see is that after the flop on the turn, many turn cards will help the range of your opponent. So anything basically between 10 and 4 gives him some nut advantage. Like he will have a lot more 2 pairs, a lot more straights than you do as an early position opener. So you generally don't want to use too many tiny bet sizes on this texture. If you have something like jacks, you definitely want to use very close to a full size pot, like full pot size bet, because you don't want to give him the favorable turns too cheaply, and therefore you want to use some big bet bluffs as well, something like king jack probably, king queen maybe as well, and some low straight draws, some ace-9 backdoor flush draw type hands. Probably ace-jack is actually somewhat borderline. By betting small, you can induce floats from a lot of dominated hands, but still you will have a very hard time realizing your advantage or getting this into a showdown unimproved as a winning hand. So I would probably go with a half pot bet like NSS, not to make it easy for him to get to turns where he can take the initiative. Yeah, some kind of big bet is fine. I don't think checking is reasonable, as you have a lot of like really knotted hands over pairs here and sets.
Yeah, this is a repeated mistake of mine, missing
Yeah.
these range c-bets.
And if he got to the turn, I think like you have some pocket tens you may check, ace five you may check, but like and you definitely need some protection because your opponent can have a lot of like random 6-out hands like king nine, king queen, like queen deuce suited, or anything you don't want to give free outs to. But on the other hand, if he's a really aggressive, creative player, he can still have some check raises because if he has something like ace 10, he can probably safely go for a check raise, because if he has ace 10, then the likelihood of you having ace 5 suited is like very slim. You have most of the time you only have one ace 5 suited combo. If he has ace 10, then he should not really be worried about you checking behind pocket tens. So your range is very capped. If he has ace 10, your range is something along weak tens, nines, and a lot of ace highs and pocket sevens and stuff like that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so actually it's a pretty good spot for him to either bet out big, because he has a huge advantage with ace 10 here, or even to go for a check raise here, a very thin check raise but very safe check raise here. With these deep stacks, he can probably not get his whole stack in with simply betting out and betting the river, but he can leverage the whole stack with a check raise. And population has a tendency to delay c-bet too much and too liberately on these type of textures when they don't really have too many. Like you didn't get much stronger with this 5. But still, most of the guys don't have these kind of creative lines in their big blind ranges, and therefore I think betting tiny is okay here.
My problem with these delay c-bets are that it's so face up that they don't really need any good cards to check raise me, because I'm always on bet fold.
Yeah,
so if he's a little bit thinking player, he's gonna just punish me all the time.
Yeah, I used to think this and over controlled myself, and I completely agree that this is a very easy spot for him to go for either thin value check raises or bluff check raises, but they just don't do it. Like I barely ever see any kind of check raising, although it's a very, very powerful weapon, and you should definitely build into your arsenal. But they just don't do it. On the river, I don't think we have any reason to bet. And yeah, quite standard there. Yeah, this is an interesting situation. Like we can probably 3-bet and get the money in if necessary. When considering this type of 3-bets, you should always also think about the spots when they just call your 3-bet, and those are very favorable situations for you. So you should not always just evaluate these spots like what happens if he jams on you, but you should be aware that many times they don't jam on you, they just call your 3-bet with a dominated holding, like king queen suited, ace jack suited, ace 10 suited, ace 5 suited, queen jack suited, queen 10 suited, etc. And then you build up a big pot which you are favorite in. But still, I think flatting is slightly better. I just don't like these high variance plays out of position. But whatever, like it's
I thought I
definitely.
called too.
Uh-huh.
Calling I like better.
Yeah, like in case you have stats on the guy, if you see something like 4 to 3 bet 75 or some ridiculously high value, then you can probably just call here, um, not to force out his dominated holdings. If you see a low 4 to 3 bet like 40, 45, then you definitely want to go for value. And even if you
But there's no HUD on GG, so that's the problem.
That's true. Yeah.
You only see one number, and that's the VPIP. How many hands does he play? So
yeah, then you
and
cannot
shark
go,
scope searches.
Yeah, you cannot go too far with that. But by default, I think calling is better.
Yeah.
Here, 1 second.
It's a fold.
I think it's rather a fold, 7-handed under the gun. Yeah, but if your opponents are on the passive side, or I don't know, like you are probably not in the bubble anymore. But if they tightened up, then raising might be okay. And like when opening, the two most important guys, just in case you missed it, are the button and the big blind. So if you have any read on the button that he is tight or his text size is just not comfortable to peel too many raises in with, then you probably have a good time opening, and the big blind cannot cause that much trouble against yours. So given the stack sizes, I kind of like the open, but I think it's still on the loser side. All right. The next one is an open. Yeah, this is just a slight concept that when you open to a big blind who has less than 10 big blind or less than 10 big blind stack, then you generally want to use bigger open raise sizes, because you will not fold to his rejams in this situation. Even with ace-4 of suit, you probably have to just call the 8 big blinds. You will not do fantastic, but you still have the odds. He will have some king highs, queen highs, and obviously he will have you dominated sometimes. But in this situation, if you use min raise, he has a very easy time realizing equity. So if he has something like 10-7 suited or 10-7 offsuit or basically any decent card, he can just pay 1 BB to see the flop and jam or check raise whenever he has any kind of equity. And it matters a lot for him whether you make a min raise or a 2.2 or 2.5x raise, because then that extra half BB he has to pay to see the flop is very significant to his 8 big blind stack. So this is a kind of important concept to not make min raises when the big blind is under 10 big blind.
I agree with that, but my thinking was that with my strongest holdings, I wouldn't want to raise more than the minimum to get him involved every possible way. So with like aces, kings, queens, I want to min raise. And if I raise them bigger, I just kept my range. So I don't know if I explained that correctly.
I get what you mean, but I think you should rather go the other way and raise bigger with the aces, kings, and queens as well. I understand and agree that most of the population doesn't do that, and therefore their slightly bigger than normal raises are somewhat kept, and you can actually attack those opens probably. But you should just simply go with bigger raises, even if you have aces, kings, and queens. And believe me, you will get some extra unexpected value if you do so, because you may have a seasoned regular behind you who says that, hey, this bigger than average raise size will never be aces, kings, and queens, and they will jam on you with something like ace six of suit. And those are nice Christmas presents. So just try it. It doesn't happen too much, but and whatever, like you can do whatever you want, but especially with this holding, I think raising slightly bigger is better, because many times you don't flop anything with this, and you have a hard time calling the dunk bet jams with a weak one overcard type hand. I think it's very close. If we can check it with some of my charts. So he has 8 big blinds. Your open raise size was min raise. The pot was 2.4 big blind, no bounty. You were not on the not on the blind. He was on the blind, and you have ace 4 of suit. And then you can see like what kind of ranges you have to assume in order to have a profitable call. And you see that if he jams all the pairs, which he definitely does, ace 8 suited, ace 4 suited, ace 10 of king jack, king queen, queen jack, then you already have a profitable call. And they will definitely jam more than this, I think, with king 10 offsuit, king 9 offsuit. They will most of the time jam. So I think calling
and all
here,
the aces.
Yeah. So even some verse ace-x sometimes. You just have to put it in. Whatever. Unfortunate. Doaz X, welcome to the show, first of all. And no need to be balanced here anyway. Can go small with aces king if you want, but important to deny equity for low stacks that will realize equity very easy with this stack pass flop. I agree with the Doaz X, if I pronounce it correctly, that probably unless you play in nosebleeds or against some very aggressive and thinking regulars, you can still go with min raise with aces, kings, and queens, and raise bigger with your capped range.
I'm just overthinking, and that kills it for me.
And we have a 3 big blind kind of all in here, which is quite tricky, I think. Min re-raising is fine, or just calling. It doesn't really matter, and not a frequent spot to spend too much time thinking about it. One of the very important lessons I learned when working together with some top guys like Elmerix, Patrick Leonard, European, that they are very, very efficient how they allocate their time, like what spots they focus on. They barely do any like tour talking about a river check raise spot, as long as they know that they have some leaks, or their student has some leaks in their short stack c betting game, which is way more important and much more frequent. So they don't spend time on rare big spots. They rather spend time on frequently appearing standard spots. They want to make sure that the basics of your game, like raising, c betting, restealing, and ICM, these are fixed. And once you have those fixed, then you can go ahead and look at the third strategies, reverse strategies, more in depth. But this is a very, very important concept. And if you want to improve fast, you should not spend too much time talking about very rare situations which you don't have much to gain and probably close anyway.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe you can throw in a 3-bet here with this type of holding. You are okay calling it down if necessary against the 14 big blind stack. And you probably get a lot of credit from the other guy because you commit yourself against this one. It depends on his overall strategy, but I think most of the guys just over open here, but not mandatory at all. And yeah, let's go with this one. Yeah, like we have 12 big blind stack, 16 big blind stack, and an 11 BB limp. And yeah, like I just don't see if we have any non-all-in raise and fold range here. Do you have?
I'm not sure. First, when I saw this under the gun limp, I was thinking it's a trap. So, but if my plan was to raise fold, I should have raised to like 90,000 or 100, not 120.
No, you cannot be so sure that the under the gun limp is, or even if he happened to already limp raise, you cannot be sure that it's aces and kings all the time. It can be like I've seen 7s, 6s, 4s, ace 5 of suit and stuffs like that many times. So even if he happens to limp raise, you cannot fold 10s here against 11 big blinds. So if you have a very solid read, like based on years of playing together, that his limping range is just always aces and kings, then limp over, but that's just not realistic. Maybe back in the days we had some fun hands with some of the other exploitative players who like when you were able to narrow down the ranges so much, but there is a reason why those times are are past, because that strategy was just too readable, too easy to read. So I would I would think that if I have to die, I will die, and I would go with the bet size, the raise size, which makes it the most likely that I get a call from worse hands. And if he has something like sevens or sixes, deuces, I'm not sure like what he is limping with. Then I think if I jam, he may talk himself into a call, thinking that if I have a higher pocket pair, I probably don't raise all in. So therefore, I raise all in because the stacks behind me are such so short that I don't have a raise folding range here. Yeah, I think
I don't really see limp raises at 11 big blinds from sevens. I think they always jam it. And one more thing, I could also think that I don't want to commit myself against two of them. So if I just raise non all in, I can still fold if, let's say, the big blind goes all in, then the under the gun guy calls, then I can fold.
Yeah,
and if I also get post flop in position against hands like Jack 10, if and he doesn't hit, I just take down a small pot. So I felt it a little more plus EV. I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah, like it's definitely close, and once again a rare situation, and I get what you say. And yeah, I don't have any like solid reads on the situation or firm suggestions like what you should do. I just, this was my first reflex when taking a look at the situation. But you are right that if you happen to raise and the big blind rejams and the under the gun just flies or throw his chips in, then probably you can fold, but still a close one. Yeah, I think yeah, maybe raising and deciding later is better. Raise decide is the name of the game. Yeah, I think like most of the guys tighten up with their opening ranges if the guys behind them are shallow, like 18 big blinds, 10 big blinds, I think they tighten up, but probably not enough to make this move minus EV. I'm not sure. Like I just marked it as a fold just to indicate that it's not plus EV against everyone. So against someone who has a wider limping range here, considering the short stacks and they don't want to give any very easy resteal to their opponents, then maybe rejamming is minus EV. But against most of the guys, rejamming is plus, is okay. Yeah.
Maybe stack is a little too big, so I should rather target stacks like 20 or maximum 25 big blinds. This
No, like
33 is
like let's see. Let me show you.
or if I'm attacking this big of a stack, I should rather have a blocker hand like ace jack or ace 10. But with those, I would not all in 3-bet fold, so I don't know.
I would not suggest you 3-bet folding ace jack here against 31 big blind. I think you are a little bit too conservative with these ranges. In general, based on your comments, I think you try to avoid marginal situations a little bit too much. And it's me who's saying that, who is already kind of famous for being a little bit more little bit too conservative. So if we take a look at this chart, which I have, this is about like basic calculation, just to give you an overall view on how this situation looks like. So if you face an open raise 2.2, the starting pot is, let's say, 2.5, and you have 31 big blind effective, and a number of players behind you at this one guy, and yeah, it says that we always fold to quote 4-bet, which is not perfect. But overall, if your opponent opens, like, let's say we have ace jack off, which is row number 37 here. Do you see this chart, by the way?
Yeah.
Like clearly enough?
Mostly.
Okay.
Not crystal clearly, but can see.
Yeah, like, what do you think his stacking off range is in this situation? When you, like, let's say you rejam simply.
Pocket 8s, maybe 7s on his tilted days. Ace, I don't know. Ace jack suited, ace queen off. That's my first guess.
Yeah, like given that your rejamming range is quite capped, I think calling with 7s is very, very clear. You should kind of snap call with 7s here, because there are so many under pocket pairs in the 30 big blind rejamming ranges, and so few higher pocket pairs that like you rarely see jacks jamming here, and then with pocket 7s you have a very clear advantage. So something along like 7% or so, and then you can see that if the button opens like 40 big blinds, 40%, then with ace jack off you cannot really make a mistake. You either make a tiny profit or big profit. Maybe you can lose an ante if he calls with exactly 7%. Like, this is not a perfect chart. I rarely use it just to get a feeling on what are the stack sizes and open raise frequencies which we can safely 3-bet or rejam against. And let's get back to the hand first. Marginal. And what about these pocket 5s? Yeah, I think we have to call this. Yeah, I just clicked on raise and you clicked on call, so it doesn't matter. It's just a kind of bug in our system that it evaluates it as different move. And the next one is an open, and we get a call from third in big blind, which is
Oh yeah, I remember this one.
quite interesting. It is very hard to put guys on ranges, because with 30 big blinds, I'm not sure if they should have any flatting range, because from 30 big blind, investing 2 big blind to see a flop is not that tempting. So if we take a look at the 12 big blind, like against a 12 big blind open, yeah, we don't even have these, but let's see 15 big blinds. 15 big blinds against a low jack raise from the button. They have like aces trapped, and some ace 9 suited, ace 8 suited, king 10 suited if they don't rejam, queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited. So I would say it's weighted towards traps in normal situations, but against a random guy, I would say that it's more likely to be some kind of marginal hands he's not ready to commit all his chips in. What's your take on this situation?
If I remember correctly, he had a higher VPIP number, and I looked him up on Sharkscope, and he was kind of a whale. So I expected from him a lot of flat calls pre-flop with middling aces and even small aces, and a lot of 9x like 10-9, jack-9, queen-9. So this flop smashes his calling range, and also some king-queen, jack-10 as well. So I definitely want to go to checking mode here.
Yeah. I think the key is to get some action from his king queen jack 10 type hands, especially if he has those in offsuit versions as well, which is very possible from a weakish player. And if he has a better ace or a 9, then I think we mainly have to just accept it and then pay him off. But yeah, I would start with the check for sure. And with the check call, obviously, the turn.
I just don't see players play their flush draws this way. He either checks back because he gets scared of stacking off, or he puts it all in, wants to generate the most fold equity. But this betting a little bit, leaving a little bit feels like a 9x.
No, no, I think first of all 9x only happen in suited format, so we should not really concerned about. We should not really be concerned about 9x. 9x is if we are beat, we are mainly beaten by ace 10, ace jack, ace 8, ace 6, ace 7, ace 7 and ace 6 are split already. Yeah. First of all, like from some of the regulars, it is a fairly steady read that actually when they have flush draw and they could easily jam it, they rather use this sizing, which is committing sizing, but looks stronger. So I probably can say it because he probably doesn't have this read any longer. But back in the days, for example, Pats had this read quite clearly, that whenever he had a strong draw, he wanted to commit his chips in, but he didn't want to look weak or look drawish. Then he used this sizing, and when he had a strong hand, then he just jammed, looking like a draw. Yeah, this was quite steady read back in the days, like 6 years ago on him. but nowadays I think he's way more balanced than that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like given we can still have a nice stack if he paid this guy off. I would tend to go with it. You should never underestimate how many stupid bluffs they make, and I agree with Adrian about this. We are not blocking any of the Jack 10 he may have. 10-8 suited, we can imagine a Vale calling sometimes, some random flush draws, even some ace deuce. You can never know. Maybe he puts that in, so we have some split equity for sure. I think I would go with it, but it's not a huge mistake by any means.
I think those Jack 10, 10-8 hands don't bet on the flop, even a fish. I would expect a reg bet those, but a fish would snap check back most of the time, I think. So
yeah, like this is like very questionable and depends on your reads really. Like no one has big enough sample size, and I really am a believer that you should always distinguish between fish and fish because they are all different guys with different motives, different fears, different like attitude to the game. Some of them are aggressive, some of them are passive. So yeah, you can never really know. But therefore, that's why I think I would go with my ranges, and I would say that if I have kind of strong hand and I don't block any of the flush draws and straight draws, and I don't have to commit too many chips, then I just don't overfold. And I think I'm still on the conservative side here. Some guys even pay this off with pocket kings and pocket queens, which is much more questionable. So I think first of all, I appreciate your attitude and your steadiness that you are ready to get rid of some marginal holdings, waiting for a better spot, which is a very good and very important tournament skill. But I think you are going a little bit too far. But should I
yeah, it's an unavoidable thing when you're on the end of a big downswing. In your mind, you just see these things happen over and over again. If I call, it's always an ace, it's always an ice, so I just fold. But if I fold, it's always a bluff. So you cannot escape this situation anyhow.
Maybe then your past trauma led you to play very steady. Very
exactly. yeah. These mid-range c-bets is the same. I get check raised every time, so I started to checking back, and then that's the problem.
Oh, well.
So I have to.
Yeah, like just one idea about this, like how your brain works. I used to study a lot about these kind of like because one of your main job being a poker player is to make good decisions constantly under pressure and under a lot of stress. And one thing I learned about the brain is that whenever there is a, maybe I've mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes, whatever, you cannot emphasize it enough. Like there is a group of neurons in your brain which are called von Economo neurons or Venn cells. And these neurons are activated whenever you have an idea about yourself, about your past. So whenever you start thinking of like, am I good enough here? Is this my big score coming? Or I'm on such a big downswing, etc. Whenever you have an idea about yourself in the center, these von Economo neurons are activated. And what you have to know about them is that whenever they are activated, the fear center of your brain, the amygdala, is also activated. And this means that your focus is ruined. It's like a dangerous animal running towards you. You lose your cognitive skills, and you just do your you are governed by your fears, your fears. You are governed by your instincts, and being on a big downswing, your instincts may mislead you, and you may make even more mistakes, and your downswing is going to be longer. So even though in some of these spots which we saw today, you ended up making very steady, calm, disciplined, sometimes a little bit over disciplined decisions, but they were okay. You should always be aware that, like, whenever you identify an idea or a thought circling in your head, and that thought contains yourself, like anything about yourself, really, then you should insert some logic and let that idea go. And you should always try to govern your focus outside on your opponents, looking for stats, looking for reads, going to chart scope, whatever, just to drive your focus outside on your opponents, preparing for creative moves, watching the history of the game, etc. So this is my best advice whenever you are in the
agree.
in the downswing.
And take a coach like Luigi. That's the second advice.
I'm doing my best, but I'm quite fully scheduled nowadays. Yeah, there is a lot going on about Check Decide. The new big update is coming on Monday probably, or maybe even on Friday. So I'm looking forward to it, and obviously we have a lot to improve on the site as well. So yeah, but we have a web shop, if I haven't mentioned. If you want to see, want to have your own T-shirt like this, be the hero, you find the banner of our web shop on Twitch, on our Twitch panel. So go to teespring.com, check Decide, and you can find this is my favorite. If you can't spot the pro in your first half an hour at the table, then you are the pro. This is kind of the reverse version of the original one in the grinders.
This is gold.
All right. Go for a 3-bet. I decided to just rejam. Maybe I didn't see this guy. But overall, I think he made a 3x open already. What do you think about these 3x open when they are this short?
He already commits himself, kind of. He plans on folding if 2 or more players go all in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Or he's just leveling and wants to make the big blind fold some marginal hands. I felt like it doesn't matter if I 3-bet or going all in his eyes. The only difference is that I can maybe fold if the small blind goes all in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, like if you can fold or not. I think you will just be committed.
I'm not sure I would, but at the time of the game, I thought this.
Maybe if the small blind goes all in and the big blind goes all in, or something like that, or small blind goes all in and the original raiser goes all in, maybe you can fold, but that's still quite questionable. The reason why I suggested just rejamming is because I think these kind of 3x opens are very often hands like 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, which...
You nailed it. I remember this one. This was a Chinese guy. He folded, showed 7s, and then made a smiling emoji.
Oh, really? Okay. so I think these kind of pocket pairs, if you go all in, they say that, okay, this is going to be ace king, and I call, and they don't even think about it twice. But if you make a tiny 3-bet, they get scared and they may lay down. Yep. And I would not really be concerned with jacks about this guy. If I happen to commit myself, it's fine. I have jacks with 34 big blinds. It cannot really be bad. But I want to get the maximum from this guy. I'm not sure. Like maybe if you go all in, they fold the sevens as well. But I think they fold with a higher frequency to non all in 3-bet. Do you have anything to do later today, or you are fine staying for another half an hour or so?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, then let's cut this in like 30 minutes from now. All right. Yeah, calling is fine here. I think 3-betting and getting in is okay, but quite questionable. And you can induce some light all-ins and make some educated decisions later on. So calling is fine. And on this texture, I think in position, you barely want to fast play. You normally just want to call. And because, No Limit Hold'em is a positional game. So whenever you are in position, you see the other guy acting first. And that's why in position, you normally want to postpone the action to the later streets to gain the maximum amount of information before committing a lot of chips. So normally you want to delay the aggression to the later streets. Quite the contrary, when you are out of position, you mainly want to fast play. You mainly want to decrease the stack to pot ratio, and if possible, getting all in on the turn the latest to deny the positional advantage of the in position player. So that's why we don't really want to raise here. And on the turn, I think betting is fine. You will get a lot of calls with one diamond type hands. If he happened, maybe he doesn't have too many of those, but I think he can definitely have some ace-x hands which they c-bet too much probably. Many of my students c-bet all their ace-x hands in this situation. Even if it's like ace-5, they do c-bet just to get some value. So therefore their ranges are a little bit fucked up, and then you can get some team value from those. Maybe if they happen to c-bet something like 8s or 9s with one diamond, they can have a check call here. I really don't want to go into too many reads about them, because what I see is that out of position c-betting ranges are generally misplayed, and they have a lot more marginal hands than they logically should. So yeah, that's why I would go for a bet. And also not to cap my ranges. If you get check raised here, I think you have a relatively easy fold on the turn. I don't think you should be too worried about that. You have sets, 2 pairs, flushes yourself. So, but this hand needs some protection, and probably gets more value on the turn if he happens to have any hand like King Jack with the Jack of Diamond or something like that, and they pay on the turn, but they don't pay on the river. Same with some marginal aces, maybe. So
I don't like my play. Even hands like queens, kings with any diamond would call on the turn.
Yeah, like normally they shouldn't really c-bet there. With kings or queens, especially with a diamond. But looking at the game of my students, I see that they do c-bet from time to time. So, yep. it can happen. Yeah, this is just a sizing difference, but doesn't matter because we put him all in anyway. And once again, if you guys in the stream in the chat you want to see these like hands which we played exactly the same way, for example, these pocket kings, David won a big pot with, but we don't talk about it because it's super standard and we play the same way. But if you want to see the whole story, then you should just follow the link which I posted earlier, or you should just go to Check Decide, look for my profile. I'm Waldemar Kreuzer, and yeah, let me just paste it once again, the link of the tournament. And when you are in, if you have any question about the hand, visit our Discord channel. Let me see. It's !, Discord probably. Let me try. I'm just getting familiar with. Yeah, this is this is our Discord community. We have close to 700 players now in our Discord channel. Many hands posted there. I try to review them. Some other like cash game professionals. We have some on the board who are generally very helpful with the hands. So you can check those. Check the community. We also have some fun there. Have you seen this comment in our Twitter? No, this is not. Twitter.com. Check Decide. This is from a student of mine describing what is the difference between tournaments and cash games. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Cash games is like a well-functioning marriage. Grinding tournaments, however, is more like being fully into a gorgeous whore who doesn't give a shit about you for months. You know she fucks with everyone. You regularly read it on Twitter that she even slept with some friends of yours. But every once in a while, she knocks on your door with some dope and a similarly gorgeous friend of hers, and you have a wonderful time till Monday morning.
Yeah, true.
This is just so perfect description. Yeah. All right. So back to the more questionable hands. You see this one. Normally you want to be very careful joining a multi-way pot with an offsuit combo, but with this one I think calling is fine. There are some textures which gives you big nut advantage,
like the one coming.
Yeah. This definitely gave you some nut, and
we shouldn't vote on this one.
Not yet, yeah. For sure. Yeah, and what I suggested here is more on the exploitative side, or I'm not sure if it's definitely exploitative, but I think it is. But I have never run four-way simulation to see exactly what we should do here. But my instincts say that we show the least value by leading out here, because if you check raise on this texture, that just looks super strong. If you just check call, there is too much of a chance that it goes check on the turn and you don't get enough value. But if you just take the lead and you bet out with a small sizing and on the mid sizing on the turn and the big sizing on the river, you can make sure you put a lot of money in, and you can even have some bluffs if you want to, like something like 5-7 or 4-3 or something like that. So I would like to see a lead out here. You can even induce with a 1/4 bet. You can even induce some floats from like Jack 10 with backdoor flush draw, Queen 10 with backdoor flush draw, Ace King with backdoor flush draw. Most of the guys will probably call you. So And getting here, I think I would probably just fast play, hoping finally I clicked on call, but I think fast playing is better. I don't think they have a lot of bluffs here in a 4-way pot, especially this texture smashing the range of ores. So I think there is a decent chance that he has something like a set or tens, which is a weakish overpair, but probably pays some, and probably doesn't pay too much on later streets when an overcard comes, etc. So I think check raising is probably good, but yeah, it's very hard to get value from here.
In game, I felt like that guy was pretty aggressive. So he had like 35 or 40% VPIP, always flatting in position and stabbing on the flop. So I thought that he could have bluffs in his range. And also because of that, the original opener could slow play most of his overpairs. And when he sees a bet and sees me raising, he could just throw them into the max. So I combined these two. I thought that's why calling is a better option.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it's a clear check raise or anything, and especially given this read, I think check calling is fine. Maybe you want to lead out on the turn because this is a turn which really favors your range, and like normal, many players are not comfortable with having turn leading ranges, but on special runouts when it is very, very likely that the turn would go check if you don't lead out, like this one. You have such a big nut advantage that you can lead out with your straights, with some of your 2 pairs, 1 pair type hands as well if you think they need protection. So I think leading here is better, and on the river I think betting big just to like he will probably not pay you off anyway unless he has like 2 pairs or sets, and if they have 2 pairs or sets, especially if this kind of aggro guy, they tend to pay you off a little bit too much. So I would go with the sizing which I can actually use as a bluff if I happen to have. I'm not sure what kind of bluff could I have, but maybe he thinks I got lost with some worse 2 pairs, and he calls me with a set or something like that. In general, people in mid-stakes tournament they are mainly unable to fold 2 pairs or sets. So I would simply go with a bigger size for that reason, which is far from very steady theoretical solution of this situation, but I think it's better than just to go with a tiny bet.
I was just hoping if his ace-3 hit a pair and finds a call or something.
But I don't think he has too many ace-x combinations. On like if he has ace-x, then he probably has ace-7 or ace-9. Like if he's reasonable at all, then the 2 pairs probably pay you off with a bigger bet sizing as well. Yeah, let's see the next one. And yeah,
we are getting close to the final 2 tables, I think.
And that's why you folded this, or?
There are 2 restill stacks and 2 really short stacks who I must call if they push. So I wanted to shift towards more blocker type hands, but we talked about this on the previous lesson as well, that I still should open my range.
Yeah, I get what you mean, and it's very reasonable. But I think this kind of folding is still good enough to just go for a raise. You will get calls from the big blinds even with dominated holdings. So, and if they happen to rejam on you, you have a relatively easy call, and it's not like you are losing half of your stack. You just go from 40 big blinds to a 31 big blind, which is not good, but not terrible either.
I wanted to keep my position. I was the table chip leader here, and I just wanted to make aggressive moves.
But even if you just like, that sounds quite ridiculous. But if you are really into conserving your stack, you can even consider folding to a rejam of the 9 big blind stacks. But it's not like they will always play just rejam, especially the big blind. Many times they will just call, and then you have a fine position to get most of the pot which you built with this holding. So I would still raise. And let's see this biggish losing hand. What happened here? 4 big blind. That's fine. Whatever. And it's not even a losing hand. Then it's a bug in the system. Because these arrows normally indicate whether you won or lost a big pot, but somehow sometimes they are mixed up. All right, let's see the next one. And once again, you decided to fold.
I decided to fold every jack 10 from now on to fold. I don't like that hand.
I can imagine Adrian getting a heart attack watching this, because he's on the other end of the spectrum. He's super aggressive, super loose, getting like falling in love with much weaker hands than than we should. So Jack 10 open folding Jack 10 suited probably hurts him. Maybe we lose him as a viewer.
This is also because of past traumas, I think. I always get rejammed and flatted, and
but
I just want to open.
If you only fold suited hands to a rejam, then you can still do very well, because suited hands are just a few combos. The problem comes when you frequently raise fold offsuit combinations. That means that your opponents can really exploit you. So if you always raise fold your king 10 off, king jack off, queen 10 off, queen jack off type hands from the bottom with like 17 big blind, then your opponents can really hammer you and rejam a lot. But if you put those into your limping range and you just raise some of your suited, very well playable hands, which perform really good when you don't get rejammed, but you get a call from the big blind, that can be part of a very good, very strong strategy. And it's not the end of the world if once in a blue moon you raise fold. That's completely fine. It's part of any winning strategy. So that's why I think you over restricted yourself in these situations.
Yeah. This was the most brutal hand of the whole hand history.
Really?
I remember this. I think this was the one.
Taking a look at what strategy you should play normally from the small blind, with 17 big blind, you should not really have a raising range. Oh, really? You should some, but not queen jack off. Queen jack off is a simple open jam with 17 big blind. With 20 big blind, you should only have limping and jamming, I think. So with 17 big blind, you can already jam some of the problematic hands, and therefore you can build up a raising range, because you no longer have to worry about king 10, queen 10, queen jack, because they are jammed in. But 70 big blind, you can jam these in, and therefore your raising range can contain much more raise calling, and then it makes sense to have raise calling range. But you will never see queen jack off raising here and like folding to an all-in or calling to an all-in. So I really don't like this. You either have to jam or just limp in. By limping in, you leave in many dominated holdings, which is good for you. By jamming, you deny equity from king 10, king 4, king 10, king 4, king ace deuce offsuit, even pocket deuces probably fold. So both of them are reasonable. Yeah. A small c-bet is probably fine. You have decent equity. You have huge nut advantage, and on a or not huge nut advantage. Like when I talk about nut advantage, I generally talk about hands you can stack off with. So not necessarily nuts, but hands you can stack off with. And you probably have more strong aces. You can stack off with any strong ace here. So that's why I say you have nut advantage here. And being called, I would say it's quite interesting. Your opponent can have some holdings like king 9, king 10, king jack with one spade, which probably call, especially late in like close to the final table. He can also have some ace-x suited, ace-low suited type hands. Those are very reasonable to just call with if we take a look at there. Yeah, versus a small blind raise. The big blind calls with a lot of ace-7 suited, ace-6 suited, ace-5 suited, ace-4 suited. So we cannot exclude that, especially in the final table bubble. And he can also have some suited connectors, two pairs, straights, and obviously some flushes as well. So I don't think we can barrel too aggressively any longer. And I think either checking or making a tiny bet just to help you realize your equity is fine. Betting big is just like, what was your thinking behind this middle size bet? What were you targeting? What kind of combinations you wanted to fold out?
My thinking was I would bet the same with my flushes, my straights, my two pairs, even no, I don't have any aces here, not with my aces. Yeah, my flushes, my two pairs, my straights.
What kind of flushes you have? Like only a very few combo, right?
Yeah, not a lot.
And what kind of two pairs you have?
In game, I wasn't thinking about this. It was like 3 a.m. I've been playing since I don't know how many hours. I was a bit in autopilot mode, to be honest, and didn't and couldn't think it clearly.
Yeah, like what I want to highlight is that you don't have too many two pairs. You don't have too many flushes, to be honest here. So therefore, and you probably have to be cautious with your ace-x hands here. So therefore, you probably shouldn't have too many barrels here. I think checking your entire range is closer to the correct play than betting too much here. I think some kind of mix is probably the GTO, but I think checking is the most important. No?
You won't believe what he had.
Yeah, like I think I remember, and yeah.
I almost got a heart attack when I saw it.
Yeah, this is probably not GTO by any of you.
Battle of the Stupid.
Yeah, like it's hard to decide whether you played verse or he played verse, but whatever. Like what I can no I my first instinct was to check this in Pio, but I don't think it's that makes too much sense, because you should definitely not put your queen jack off into your raising range here with 18 big blinds. So you should either limp or jam, and then all this situation is whole different. So yeah, let's just not waste too much time on it. I think the c bet is fine. If you raise, the turn is probably a check, and check decide, why not? And yeah, had you bet the big, probably you have to call, but it's not even like very clear. First of all, you can sometimes be dead, and even if you are not dead, you are very often up against a low flush, and then you have like 7 outs, 14% to improve there, which is not a lot once again. So yeah,
this hand, I was hoping we couldn't even see this, because I'm ashamed of it. I didn't even think about it. I just saw it like flash draw. Okay, let's go call. And then I saw the jack 10.
Yeah, like when you are tired, it's very, very okay to make mistake. Obviously, the difference between player and player is like how many times they got so tired that they make plays which are rather in their C game or D game than in their A game or B game. So, but it's fine. You have to accept that sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes situations can come up where you don't have a clue about the correct play. My general advice would be that unless you play in a super tough tournament, whenever you are in a very questionable situation, just fold, wait for a better spot. Thankfully, tournaments, especially nowadays during COVID, are quite easy, quite soft. And if you selected your schedule well enough, then you will probably have easier decisions. So whenever there is a close spot, the profit you can make is probably like 1 big blind or 2 big blind, whatever, and you can make the 1 big blind, 2 big blind risk free later on. But if you happen to be tired and you make such a mistake and it doesn't work like it worked for you, then you just burn a lot of money with this kind of moves.
Yeah.
Yeah, like by default, I think this is rather a limp, but raising big is also reasonable. Raising small is not that good. With the ante and still 32 big blinds, he will have a relatively easy time calling you, and this hand will not play very good at all. You will not pick up straight draws. You will not pick up flush draws on the turn to barrel with. So many times you just make a blind c bet, and then you have to check fold the turn. So therefore, I don't really like this. If we check 30 big blinds, what we should do from the small blind, we see that ace 6 of suit is a non-only raise, but you can see that it's 5 small blind plus the big blind, so 3.5 big blind is the correct sizing here. So you should raise to something like 1 million, and then you increase your fold equity a lot. It makes it much harder to for him to realize equity, to over realize, etc. So it's questionable. You probably want to make a small bet, but once again, it's a rainbow texture, so he will have a lot of very natural floats here. But I just don't want to check call. I don't want to check fold. I think betting on the mid size is probably good enough to fold out some weakish backdoors. Yeah. And if he got here, I just want to check bet for protection to make him fold out like king 9 or king 8 or queen 8, which can not only improve against me, but also can bluff some rivers which I cannot call on. If we got here, then it's fine. Yeah, but still, I don't really like the play all along this hand. Yeah, let's cut this here. 155, hand number 155, and let's continue in the last episode, the third episode. Is it okay for you next week?
Sure.
The same time? All right.
Yeah.
Then let's continue next week. And thank you, chat, for being here. And what else? Come join Check Decide. Check out the blog. I have a blog with a lot of very useful tips on how to beat mid-stakes and low-stakes tournaments. Some advanced tutorials on how to use Check Decide efficiently, and also strategy as well. So blog is definitely a good read. And also follow us on Twitter, and let's see each other in the Discord channel as well. All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, David, for being here. And
thanks for having me.
Let's meet again next week, same time. Cheers, guys.
See you, guys.
Thank you.